Hello everyone, let's talk patch 3.13 in League of Legends today. So one of the big overarching changes is changes to dashes and attack speed slows, or people with dashes tied to their ultimates. So, Jarvan, Nocturne, Vi, Malphite, and Hecarim. What it does is it allows the crowd, if they get hit by crowd control, it won't affect them during the dash, it will affect them at the end. So now you're not wasting it, right? If Caitlyn fires her net at Hecarim while he's ulting, currently nothing would happen and she'd be screwed. But right now, it would basically let Hecarim finish, and then it would uh, have the net impact, I suppose, which doesn't quite make sense. Some, logically, but some of the other things do. So that's a fairly large change, and then a little visual change for stealth champions that does not affect us. Now let's get right into champions because this is the only part we really care about. Some of the other stuff matters, but not as much. All right, so Aatrox, who we've been playing quite a bit lately, he now Uh, wait, I must have read this wrong. Oh, Bloodwell's passive attack speed now scales with character level. So it's lower earlier and higher later. I actually thought it was the opposite way around. And Blades of Torment's damage has been reduced. So at lower levels, it's not really affected, and at higher levels, it's lower. So that's good, because it's really frustrating trying to kill Aatrox when he's just a monster. And he's doing like 300 damage every third hit extra, which is just ridiculous. Especially when he builds lots of lifesteal. So they balance that a little bit. That's nice. Ahri had mana cost for Charm flattened, and her health regen is now no longer 35% of spell vamp. It's a formula I didn't quite understand it. A formula which depends how many champions you hit with your next spell. So imagine she'd use her Q for that would be the most efficient one, whereas before there wasn't really an efficient one. It was just kind of how much damage you could do. Yeah, those are big ones. And moving on to Corki, his base attack speed has been reduced, and also missile barrage effectiveness has been nerfed. Imagine we'll probably see less Corki. He'll probably stay in the pro scene, but I would say he's definitely not going to be nearly as popular a pick anymore, because his missiles do less damage, the cooldown in between them is longer, and cooldown reduction doesn't affect it. So it's kind of his main deal is that he has good attack speed and that he has his missiles can be scary to deal with. They've nerfed them a little bit. So I don't know if I'm as excited to play Corki anymore because let's see, base damage reduced from missiles from. Sorry. Wait, is it even at higher levels? It is base damage reduced to 260 to 260, or from 260. So it'll just be lower at earlier levels, which I guess is okay, even though I didn't seem to be too dependent, and pros didn't seem too dependent on them anyway, but it's only 20 damage. So I'm not as upset about that because it's the same damage at the end. But the shot is now, it's almost doubled the cooldown between shots, and you can no longer get cooldown reduction. So instead of being able to make it like zero point 0.8, it's now 2 seconds no matter what. So that's going to make it really hard to confirm some of those kills, because I find that's one thing Corki's really good at is chasing somebody down, and then they're about to get away, Valkyrie's missiles, and they're dead. Fizz has been nerfed a little tiny bit. They don't want him to be so freaking crazy good at the end of the game. They want him to have to land his ultimate, or at least have 2 sets of his Q through E. Because right now, basically, he doesn't need to use his ult to kill most champs, or barely needs it. So they're trying to work on that by nerfing Seastone Trident a little bit. So we'll see what happens with that. I still think Fizz will be a dominant champ. Heimerdinger, they screwed him all sorts up. Nobody played him anyway, right? And then they made him harder to play, I think. So he might be a little bit more useful in team fights. But that was really all he was good for anyway, and even then he was so fragile. Like, he could win his lane and he could throw his rockets and grenades and turrets into team fights, but he's not even like an AP carry really, because it's hard as hell to focus his damage. And now they just made him even more splash damage intensive, so Be interesting to see how he plays. I would have liked to see him made a little bit less squishy, but oh, and he can no longer heal real turrets, so that's kind of nice. There's a bunch of crap here. Read it if you're interested, but nobody plays Heimerdinger, and I don't think anyone's gonna play him after this. So it's not something I'm worried about. Jinx has been nerfed a little bit. My biggest beef with Jinx is actually her zap, so I'm glad that's been nerfed. Mana cost has been increased by a fair number. Uh, oh my gosh, I read this one wrong too. It's actually lower at higher levels, but higher at lower levels, which is perfect with me because I hate playing Jinx early lane because she just destroys you. She can no longer hit you out of the brush with zap, and she can no longer reveal cloaked units right out of the brush. Same deal, I guess. And base damage is reduced a lot at early levels. It went from 30 to 10. That's a big deal, right? Because it's a stun on an ADC that did a friggin' butt ton of damage and could get you out of the bushes. So I think it was a little bit broken, and they fixed it. Her minigun doesn't work quite as well anymore either, and that's again just early lane because she's not that good late game, but if she snowballs off 10 kills, it doesn't matter how good she is late game, really, because she's still going to wreck your face. And then move on to Kassadin. They buffed him. Da freak? Why would you do that? I don't even want to talk about it, because Kassadin's already annoying. So Riftwalk does more damage, but you get mana back if you land damage on an enemy champion. They felt Kassadin was too safe, so they gave him more damage. I don't get it. Well, that's okay. Oh, they did nerf him. They removed 1.25 magic resist at level 18. Or I think that might be per level, so it might be 18 magic resist, 25 magic resist at level 18, something like that. So they removed his passive magic resist, which almost makes up for the fact that they made him stronger. Morgana, they just wanted to make her more dependent on using Tormented Soil with her stun, which I think they did a good job of. So, yeah, she's got a buff across the board, is the word they use, I believe. Yep, across the board. So, Tormented Soil no longer reduces magic resist, it just does more damage, which is cool. And we go to Olaf, who recently just got a giant overhaul anyway. Undertow slow duration has been increased and its mana cost changed to a flat cost. Rammus received a texture update. Exciting right there. Hoorah. Sivir got completely reworked. The biggest thing is Ricochet now does the next 3 attacks and unlimited bounces. As long as it can find a fresh target. It won't hit the same target twice, but it will hit every single target in its range. Which is going to make her a little bit scary in team fights, but I still don't think anybody will play her if her range stays what it is, because you'll get outplayed by every other ADC. Hunt no longer Hunt no longer has an active, I don't believe, if I read that right. And oh shoot, what's the other one? Oh, her spell shield no longer costs mana, right? So instead of hoping you block a spell and getting extra mana back, you now just use it and block a spell, and it doesn't affect your mana at all, which is nice because some of her other abilities are a little bit mana intensive. So her attack speed per level has really been nerfed, and I just feel like this isn't a nerf or a buff for Sivir. I feel like Sivir will still never be played, which if that's if they don't care, that's fine. Yeah. Oh, I think On the Hunt just affects your teammates. I can't remember. Let's see. On the Hunt. No longer has a cast time. Active no longer grants attack speed. Now grants Sivir a new passive. Sivir gains bonus attack speed while Ricochet is active, which is fabulous. Movement speed bonus now begins at 60, then reduces to 20 after 4 seconds. Cooldown change to about... Oh, lower at... Ugh. It's now higher early and lower as you get to the end, so... It's only 60 seconds at the end, which is beautiful because that's like Lux, man. You can get crazy up in there. Zed's been changed a little bit. He can now go back to switch places with the Shadow from any place on the map. The Shadow lasts longer, and there's a few positioning changes, but I don't think they're going to be a big deal. The big deal about Zed is that his Shadow will last longer, and he can swap from any position on the map. So I don't know if it will last long enough, but if you could tele away, you could actually warp back to your Shadow if you really wanted to. I don't know why you would, but Ziggs has been basically made a better farmer, a better split pusher. That's really it. They just made him more effective against minions because they want him to be able to split push. Zyra, that's me, I'm Zero. Deadly Bloom's damage has been reduced overall, but her AP ratio has been increased, which I think is a buff late game. And Rampant Growth's passive cooldown reduction has been decreased. And they changed plants around to make it more intuitive. So that'll be interesting to play. I got a headache from trying to read that, so that's all of my patch notes, my revised patch notes with the final edition of patch 3.13 for League of Legends. Questions, comments, rude remarks, subscribe, Facebook, and all that jazz. I look forward to it down there, and I look forward to playing with you soon.